lesson 11.4, graphs of linear equations. A linear equation is an equation in which the variables appear in separate terms and each variable occurs only to the first power. So a couple things, important things to remember. You have to the first power. So if you have any type of equation that is x squared plus 5 equals y, that's not a linear equation. A linear equation would be y equals x plus 5. So remember, if you have any exponents like this, it's not a linear equation. A linear equation also makes a line. When you graph it, it should be a line that you graph. If you're not graphing lines now, then you're doing something wrong. In example 1, let's graph y equals 1/3 x minus 1. Choose several values to substitute for x, then evaluate to find y and make a table of values. Now, first of all, usually what I'm going to tell you to do is to graph -1, 0, 1, and 2. Those four numbers that we always say represent your x, because in the directions they didn't necessarily tell you. You are making a chart. Even though they didn't do this, this is what you're doing, and this is how they solved this. So y equals 1/3 x minus 1. They put in -6. Let's do this ourselves. Let's do -1, 0, 1, and 2. So 1/3 times -1 minus 1. Take 1/3, put it in your calculator, multiply by -1, which is -1/3, subtract 1, you get -1 and 1/3. Let's put in 0, you should get -1. Then 1 is 1/3 minus 1, which is -2/3. 2 is 1/3 times 2 minus 1. 1/3 times 2 is 2/3 minus 1 is -1/3. Now, these are your ordered pairs. So your solutions are -1, -1 and 1/3, 0, -1, 1, comma, -2/3, and 2, comma, -1/3. So we're not going to use these numbers. Now you're probably wondering, how do I plot an ordered pair that's in a fraction? Well, -1 and 1/3 is somewhere between -1 and -2, closer to -1. So let's go to -1 first, then go down somewhere between -1 and -2. 0, -1, it's right there. 1 and -2/3, now this is between 0 and -1, probably a little closer to 1. You can kind of see we're making the line here too. 2, -1/3, closer to 0. Then draw a line through those points. You can see I'm very close to what I had on the graph. So again, you will take a ruler or something, straight edge, and draw a line through the points. And you want to go all the way through the graph. Go through the points all the way through the graph. And make sure your arrows are on there too. For number 1 and number 2, you are graphing the linear equation. Again, you have to set up this chart. Use -1, 0, 1, and 2, because they don't give it to you. So y equals x minus 7. Number 2, before you actually make the chart, you have to solve for y. Write it in function form. So solve this for y. Remember, add the opposite of the x term to both sides. And then divide by the coefficient. The coefficient is 1. So it's not really needed. Once you have the y equals whatever you solved over here, then you can set up your graph or your chart and go ahead and graph that. Number 1 I'm going to help you with. This is -1 minus 7, which is adding a negative, so it's -8. And those are ordered pairs. This is 0 minus 7, which is -7. Then 1 minus 7, which is -6. And then 2 minus 7, which is -5. And then go ahead and graph -1 left down to -8. 0 to -7. 1 to -6. 2 to -5. Draw a line through the dots and all the way through the graph and put arrows at the end. Pause the video, try number 2 yourself. See Mrs. Shea or a teacher to get checked. Let's talk about in example 2 how you use the graph of a linear equation. Remember, a linear equation is going to be y equals ax plus b. You're taking music lessons. The book used for the lesson costs $15. You're charged $7.50 per lesson. You can model the total cost C of your lessons in dollars using this equation. Now, this equation is in function form. So there's the y equals, here's the a, the n is now your x, plus the b. So let's graph this. We're going to make a table of values. Now, we're going to use what they have here just so we can graph nicely. Again, what they did is they took 3-column chart and they did 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. So they did 7.5 times 0 plus 15, and they got an answer of 15. So they did this part for us. We're going to plot the graph, 0 up to 15, 2, 30. Again, you should be able to identify that these are ordered pairs. And so forth. 4 to 45, 6 to 60, 8 to 75. And draw a ray through the points. Now, what is a ray? A ray starts at the end point and goes up through the points as close as you can. And it only has one arrow, so it stops right here. Why are we drawing a ray? Because n represents the number of lessons. And can you have less than 0 lessons? No. So you're not going to go below 0 because you can't have -1 number of lessons. Now we're going to estimate how many lessons you will take for the total cost of a lesson to be $75. So we're going to go to $75, and we're going to see that that is at 8 lessons. Other types of graphs of linear equations are vertical and horizontal lines. When you have x equals a, this is a vertical line. Okay, so it's an up or down line. It does not pass through the y-axis, so there is no y to it. When you have y equals b, this is a horizontal line. And it passes through 0, b point. So it's not passing through the x-axis at all. Let's try some of those. X equals 6, again, x equals is a vertical line. we're going to go x equals 6. So on the x-axis, we're going to go to 6 and put a dot. And then, because it's a vertical line, I want to go and draw a vertical line through 6. Don't think of it as horizontal. If I was doing horizontal, I'd be right on top of the axis. So that's how you can tell whether or not you drew the correct line. What this means is that y can be anything. Y can be 3, y can be 4. So you have 6 comma 3, 6 comma 4, 6 comma 5. The x value is always 6. By the way, a vertical line does not represent a function. Y equals negative 3 for part B is a horizontal line. We're going to go to the negative 3 on the y-axis. That's why it says y equals negative 3. Now if I drew a vertical line, you can see it goes right on top of the axis. So I'm going to draw a horizontal line. X can be anything. X can be negative 2 down to negative 3, 1 down to negative 3, but y is always negative 3. So we have a horizontal axis, and this is a function. The lesson is over.